School official. School and district leaders sometimes get concerned about who in the school community is allowed to know what. For example, they'll ask if a student's teacher is allowed to know student health information. Or how are they supposed to handle classroom volunteers? Does it make a difference if the volunteer is a student? What if it's someone off-site, like a website, but they're providing an educational service? For these kinds of questions, FERPA is more flexible than you might think. It gives the school a lot of discretion regarding how these questions are answered. It will require some guardrails be in place, including notifying parents of how you're going to make those decisions. Let's go over the requirements of the school official exception. School officials include teachers, admin, and other individuals working within the school or district that have a legitimate educational interest in the student's record. You're required to explain in your annual notice of FERPA rights how the school will determine who has a legitimate educational interest. In general, this means that a school official may have access to information in education records if they need it to fulfill a professional responsibility. Teacher needs to check the student information system to see how the student's doing on reading? School official. Special education teacher needs to review records before an IEP meeting? School official. Registrar needs to review medical records to determine which students qualify for a testing accommodation? School official. District administrator needs to review education records as part of a program evaluation? School official. You want to check your neighbor's ACT scores to see if they scored higher than your dearest daughter, Sally? Probably not that one. School official also can include contractors, volunteers, and other parties the school has outsourced work to, provided the following conditions are met. If they're performing a service you would otherwise use your own employees for, you have direct control, they don't redisclose the data, and they're listed as a school official in your annual FERPA notice, then they can be treated as a school official. Number 1, the school official must be performing a service or function that the school would otherwise use its own employees for. Schools provide a lot of services for students. Some they use their own employees for, and others they outsource. If you think about it, this ties back to the idea of legitimate educational interest. But if it's for like a commercial purpose, say you're gonna give all the contact information of students that got good grades to a local travel agency so that they can get away today or tomorrow to Disney World, it probably doesn't meet the exception. Regardless of who is performing the service, you need to ensure that it is a service the school would ordinarily provide. Number 2, you must maintain direct control over the use and maintenance of the education records. Since there are so many different kinds of school officials, direct control is going to look a little different for each of them. The most likely, it's going to look like some sort of training or onboarding that will let them know what they're allowed to do. Or it'll be a contract or written agreement that specifies what is permitted. Number 3, the school official may not redisclose information derived from education records with any other individuals or groups, unless it follows another FERPA exception or you obtain parental consent. In short, you make the rules for what they can do with the data, not the other way around. Number 4, you have to explain who will be considered an outsourced school official in your annual notice of FERPA rights. In practice, this will look like a list of groups of individuals that you will share records with, such as contractors, auditors, medical consultants, and so on. Part of this will also be to make clear who at the school or district is authorized to designate someone as a school official. For example, are teachers authorized to share student information with apps or websites without telling anyone? Are they going to check that all 4 of those criteria are met? Or would it make sense to have a workflow where the app is approved by a principal, IT director, or other administrator? FERPA requires that you use reasonable methods to ensure that a school official only has access to records that they have a legitimate educational interest in. This may include technical measures, such as limiting access to certain individuals within the school. It may also include administrative controls, such as contracts that explain acceptable uses and purposes. And if they're coming into the building like a volunteer, it may just mean keeping a close eye on them. I saw that, Janet. Come on. So remember, if they're performing a service that you would otherwise use your own employees for, you maintain direct control. They don't redisclose the data and you've properly notified parents, then they're a school official.